Check this out.
Okay.
Good morning, Jillian.
Good morning.
We are so excited to have you here today.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome, and excited to learn more about you and about ICAN and all of the amazing things that you guys are doing. As becauseOne and Synergize and our Impact Partnership for 2025,
Yep.
we're just looking forward to learning more about nonprofits. We serve nonprofits, we support nonprofits, and we know that you guys are truly the ones that know the needs of our community and of our canines.
Yeah.
So share with me a little bit about the mission itself and what you guys are doing.
Yeah, happy to share. I love, this organization's irresistible to me. Like, there are so many good, positive angles to it. And objectively, when you look at placing service dogs with individuals with disabilities, it makes a lot of sense. We're here to give access to people in our community. And then uniquely, we train those dogs in facilities, prison facilities throughout the state of Indiana. So you have individuals, incarcerated individuals who have a need to contribute to the community as well. And they are doing that through the training of these service dogs for about 2 years. And then it's culminated with the partnership when the dog is actually placed with the individual. So very objectively, you can see it's a win-win-win, but I think you can't love anything at arm's distance. So when you are closer to the situation, you actually begin to see the mosaic of people that are impacted by all of it. The incarcerated individual has a family outside of those prison walls that are impacted and changed, hopefully for the better because of what they're doing and how they're training and they're contributing to somebody else. There's a lot of dedication and self-worth that is built into that, and that impacts their family. And then when you look at the side of the individual who's getting the service dog, their lives are impacted and their family's impacted. They're able to go into the community more confidently. And then the dogs themselves, like it's just again an opportunity for the dogs to serve in a way that we already know dogs are unconditional and they're loved, but it's just even more impactful when you can see that they're a working dog helping to facilitate independence for somebody. So when you're close by, you can really see the different mosaic of the community coming together.
That's really awesome. And can you tell us the full name again? I know we said ICAN, but what's the full name?
Yep. So ICAN stands for Indiana Canine Assistant Network. And so we are about a 25-year-old organization. We're just shy of that. Located here in central Indiana. We're actually one of our headquarters is in Zionsville, but we have another office in the Fort Wayne area. We do serve the entire state. So it's an opportunity for us to not just build into the central Indiana community, but also throughout the entire state as well.
So tell us a little bit about the people that are receiving these service dogs and then the dogs themselves too.
So the people that we serve predominantly are individuals with mobility needs. So they may have some kind of disability that requires just a little extra assistance, and that's what the dog provides. So it's a one-on-one partnership with that individual that may need that mobility help. And then we also place dogs in with veterans or veteran community when they're experiencing PTSD or traumatic brain injury. So some of our dogs are partnered with them to help, sometimes even with mobility, but also with psychiatric help. And then we also have dogs that are placed in schools and also in environments like physical and occupational therapy rehabilitation centers or hospitals or even courthouses. And in that environment, the dog is actually facilitating something in between a lot of different people. So like in a school setting, it may be in a special needs classroom. A teacher or counselor is using that dog to facilitate some type of educational opportunity or using the dog's cues in order to facilitate some type of interaction with the kids so that they can learn better, maybe read better. Maybe they need to have an opportunity to calm. So the dog will come and lay pressure on the individual and give them a sense of security and calm so that that student can return back to the classroom and be able to do the work that they are there to do for the day. Those are our main placements. And some of them, like I said, are individual. They're very individual focused. And then others are more community based where they're helping lots of individuals on any given day.
Very cool. So where do you get these dogs? Like, where do they
come from? And then tell us about the training process.
Yeah. So the dogs themselves, it takes about 2 years to train one service dog, and it costs us about $30,000 to train that dog from the beginning to the end. And we do have a commitment to the client that we were in the partnership for the lifetime of the partnership. So that means that if the dog is placed at 2 years old and they work until 10 or so, we are there throughout that entire journey. So that's part of the cost is that long-term care, if you will, with the client. But the dogs, from the breeding standpoint, we at one point we rescued dogs out of shelters. We were trying different things, and we found the most success, the ability for us to train and to place as many dogs as possible is through purpose breeding. And so we do breed our own litters for the purpose of being placed with somebody with an individual. We also partner with other organizations throughout the world, actually, that are training service dogs through a co-op. And so we share puppies that way too. So we've even had dogs come all the way from Australia to be part of our program. And that just helps that genetic pool to deepen and to have the opportunity to have different types of working dogs into our what we call our colony, or our group of dogs that we have. We have anywhere between 56 to 60 dogs at any given time within our program. And then we have about 25 to 30 puppies a year. So that's a lot of dog food and a lot of health care for those individuals. But sometimes the dogs that are born in our care, they are born in a volunteer's home. So usually volunteers will dedicate their time to having what's called a whelp in their home. And so up until maybe about 4 or 5 weeks, those puppies are in the environment of a volunteer's home. And then they may even go into the prison environment. So then the inmate handlers are the ones that are finishing what we call finish the whelp. So mama dog and the puppies all go in. And it's really beautiful to see because this is an opportunity for these men and women to care for these little tiny pups. And maybe they missed out on that opportunity with their own children, or maybe in their own life outside of the prison. And so it gives them an opportunity to really build into these puppies' lives from the very beginning. And we start training the moment that they're born. So from the moment that they are born, we are doing sensitivity tests. We are touching them in certain ways. We're exposing them to noises. We're exposing them to different stimuli so that they become as reliable as possible whenever we place them in 2 years. So that's a really critical part of, I mean, we all have kids, right? So we know that like that foundational learning for children is really important. And it's the same with puppies. Like that foundational learning is really critical for them to be as successful as possible for the client and most reliable for the client.
That's awesome. So I want to know a little bit more about Jillian. How did you get involved with ICAN? Where is your heart? What pulls you in each and every day?
Well, like I said, the mission is pretty irresistible. So when I first was exposed to ICAN, I was in my early phase. The program had just started. They had 3 dogs in the program. And I worked in a lot of different not-for-profit settings, doing volunteer management, fundraising, partnerships with corporations. And when I came across the organization, I selfishly wanted to be around dogs because I was in a work situation where I traveled a lot. So I didn't think it was fair to have my own personal dog because I felt like, because you're traveling so much and everything, that it didn't make sense. But I was looking for a program where maybe I could interface with a dog and have that, unconditional love that we talked about, but yet not have the full-time commitment of having a dog to care for. And I came across ICAN, and within 3 minutes of hearing the mission and what was trying to be accomplished, I was like, tell me more. Like, this sounds fantastic. And because we train our dogs in the prison environment, we need volunteers to take the dogs out of the prison environment for just a couple weeks at a time and expose them to all types of social situations, going to restaurants, going to church, going to a ball game. So we have about 300 volunteers today that help us facilitate that. Well, at this point, we only had 2 volunteers, me and another person, 3 dogs. And my first volunteer gig was with this little black Labrador. She's about 4 months old, showed up at my doorstep with a bag of dog food and just a list of commands that were written out on a piece of loose leaf paper. And then that was volunteer training, and so that I was ready to go. And so I took this little pup different places, took her to work, that kind of thing. But really what transformed me is when I went into the prison, the women's prison, for the first time and actually witnessed the handlers working with the dogs and with the clients. So the clients actually come into the prison environment at the time that the partnership happens, and those individuals that have been working with the dogs for the past 2 years share that information, transfer that knowledge to the client as part of what we call team training. That's when I realized, I'm like, these individuals that are in these situations, like, they could have been your neighbor, they could have been my sorority sister, they could have been the business partner that I've had. Like, we're all just one step from making maybe a decision, or being around somebody that makes a decision that can impact the rest of our lives. So I had great empathy for that, and I felt like this was something that I wanted to dedicate some volunteer time to. So I became a member of the board, eventually became chairman of the board. And in 2013, I had sold a company and was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, if I wanted to go back in a not for profit or if I wanted to kind of go down the business route, and was approached by the organization's founder to consider becoming their executive director. So I really felt like it was a culmination of all my skill sets that I had, the not for profit management, running a company. I felt like I had kind of gotten my MBA through running this company. And I thought, wow, if there's one organization that I would love to be dedicated to, it would be this mission. And so that was, 2013. So that was, 11 years ago that came into this role in this position. And we've grown a lot since then. We've been able to move our offices to, a location that we could facilitate out of. We've been able to almost triple our staff, and we've our growth from a sales standpoint has been, I don't know, it's probably 2000%. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's incredible to be part of the organization in this way.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I think something that I love about nonprofits is, as Stacia mentioned, you guys are the boots on the
Our
ground.
producer that this
Our
will.
producer.
That'll be in the bloopers.
That's right. That's right. But as Stacia mentioned, the nonprofits are really the boots on the ground. And I think I love to hear like personal, like very hyper focused impacts. So is there a story that you have of, maybe it's through, a client or something like that, like a very specific story that just really shares the impact of ICAN?
There's so many. I mean, and as I said, like, I feel like once you objectively, you can look at this mission, you say this all makes sense. But then when you're really into it and you're falling in love with the mission, you're like, wow, like, you see the impact that it's making on individuals time and time again. I think that really is close to my heart. I do have a kid that went through the Army and is a veteran. And so we had a veteran client that served our country in Vietnam and had experienced his entire platoon had gone through a situation where he was in charge of the platoon. He was the lead man on the platoon, and they were hiding in the hills and they were trying to get back to their main base. He was the one responsible for getting all these men back to where they needed to be. And several days had passed and they didn't feel like it was very safe with the movement. And finally, they stayed a little bit longer than what he had anticipated, and they were bombarded by the Viet Cong, and all the men except for him perished in that. He had not told anyone that story. He returned back to his military base, continued to serve, went home, had a family, continued to live his life, and he had buried that pain of losing all those men under his watch. And it was not only until he received a dog from ICAN and was partnered with that dog really for mobility. His circumstance was that he had some severe back surgeries that kind of led him to where he needed a mobility dog. And that dog opened him up in a way that he then started to process what had happened, 55 years prior, and was actually able to then go to his daughters and tell them the story. And in this healing process, all kind of the catalyst of the dog, in the healing process, he found the daughter of one of the men that served with him. He knew that the gentleman had a baby on the way. His wife had been pregnant back in the United States. And so he knew that there was a child that never knew her father. So, and I will get emotional because it's a very special story. So he found that young woman, and I think in California, and was able to actually share who her father was and share about their experiences together. And now she knows a little bit more about her dad and what a hero that he was. And again, this is all because of a little program in Indiana that was able to provide a dog to somebody who needed it. And then it opened up this whole different story for another family. So that's the kind of stuff that I think is really amazing about ICAN.
Well, you got us with that one too.
And I think that that is something that only the bond with a dog, with an animal, can unlock.
Absolutely.
So much in our hearts and in our minds, and just seeing what that one animal was able to do is just impactful. It's life-changing.
It is life-changing.
Transformative.
You know, our objective is for individuals to have more independence. Our objective is to give them more confidence when they navigate the world. Those are our key performance indicators, right? You're always looking at, did their quality of life change? Did something happen that increased their ability to go and maybe be in the workforce? And even with our incarcerated individuals, like, we want them to have a strong sense of worth, but we also want them to have a good work ethic. And taking care of a little puppy for 2 years, and when the puppy's sick, you got to take the puppy out, even if it's 3 a.m. in the morning. And the responsibilities that come with that, often they are learning a trade as well. So if they do get out of prison and they come back into our community, over 68% of our men and women that have been with us have actually gone into some kind of animal related industry, whether it's a vet tech, maybe they do their own training. I even know one woman who owns her own mobile grooming business. So they've learned something about the benefit of being around an animal and that unconditional love. And so it's usually a calling for them at some point then later. So certainly that's the objective. But these ancillary stories that happen, we could never predict. And we don't have the ability to train the dog to do that. It's just the unlocking, to what you said, Stacia, like just the unlocking of the heart, I believe, is really what it comes down to.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Oh, yeah.
And just to kind of wrap things up, if somebody, an individual, a business, was wanting to get involved with ICAN, support you, whether volunteering or donations, where do they go? How do they do that?
So, of course, you can find us on the interwebs, of course, right? So at ICAN, ICAN dog.org, and that can give you an indication of who we serve, because you may know somebody in your family's life too that, could benefit from a service dog. Like I said, we have 300 volunteers that we always need volunteers to participate with our organization. And that's really critical. So I think the first step is going to our website and finding that out. Like I mentioned, dog costs a lot, right? $30,000 a lot. So we have some great corporate partners that will support a dog all the way through. Their associates then actually get to follow that dog during the 2-year of its training cycle. We've even had people be in naming contests or have a big puppy shower at their place of business, so that they can understand what ICAN is and who we serve, and to be able to share the story, because these dogs do come in the community when they're outside the prison. So it's important for us to have them. They're our best billboard. They're the ones that tell the best story about what ICAN's doing.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Well, thank you for the time. Really appreciate it.
Check this out.
Okay.